Hello everyone, my name is Miser Luke, and this is the Turn Zero tutorial for the Promethean Directive. What I'll be doing today is filling out this spreadsheet for the Avum Empire, and in doing so I'll explain all the things that you really need to do to get started. So first problem you'll notice is our free materials are negative. To fix that, we need to select a start. We're in the middle of the map for the Avum Empire, so this will be a mid-tech start. And then once now we've got our resources, you can see we've got free materials there, and our tech points, we can go over to the tech tree. I recommend starting here because things like industry will affect your cost of production, so it'll affect how big your cities can be, things like that. So I really want to spec into eco, and you'll see I've already got a 0 0.8 here. This means that I'm trying to discount the industry tree, and in exchange for that, I'm going to apply an extra cost to a tree I'm likely not to use, which is the plasma and pack tree. And then looking through the rest of this, I mean, there are some funny things I could do with like flamethrowers, but the main things I'm going to want are fuses, just because that's convenient. I use heavy airships, so I don't need the thrustercraft tech. And I will need harvesting 1 to get other Sidium, because that's important for my nation. And then, what am I at now? I've got 30 spent. Yeah, I've got loads to spend. I'll want weak guidance, because I use that for some stuff, so I need mechanical computing. And then I'll need power somehow. So I'll probably grab, what am I thinking, these two? And then that'll get me 5,000 power from tech. That'll be enough for like some early game builds. I may grab gas turbines as well to make sure I've got plenty of power. Actually, nope, I can't afford that, so no gas turbines for me. I'll just have to get it from like oil. And yeah, this will be a good start here. I've got somewhat cheap industry. I've got the bare minimum things I need in terms of power, weak guidance, fuses. Some of my stuff uses surges and ERA, or not enough ERA to actually require the tech. It's just like decorational stuff, so you don't need it if it's decorational. But yeah, so I'll need to definitely research a few more of these, especially getting into intelligence stuff. But for now, this is all I can afford. So going over to the civilian tab, let me go ahead and copy and paste these, which I figured out beforehand. These are my major cities. Regal Katok is our capital. The Hold is the biggest naval base. Tallinn is a significant city base and yard, so I'll make it a yard. Nilnili is primarily a base. It's just an inland massive port. Outpost Ramrod, also a base. And then Parsim, Dronok, and Whitley are all cities. If I needed more, I could always copy and paste this downward, and then just copy more of these rows, but I don't need it for the Avum Empire. Now to figure out how big I want everything to be and what I want to have here. So let's start with Nilnili, because this is like a major like overflow dockyard. So it's just going to have a ton of dock capacity and nothing else. Maybe I'll put some production and a little bit of research there. But overall, a fairly small city as far as like output goes. Outpost Ramrod should only ever hold a small fleet. Let's go with 600,000. That'll be enough for like a cheap cruiser and a few escorts. And then again, 0 for build. Let's not bother to produce anything there and maybe put 5 research. These are going to be 0 on all of these. I mean, I can fill out like a 0 in all of them. Like, actually, can't do that. In general, don't like Control X, Control V to copy stuff. That will actually mess up the formulas. So please just, you can do like Control C, Control V, and it won't mess anything up. It'll mess up the colors, but that's not important. But never Control X, because that affects how the formulas sum stuff. You see, it's relatively complex, and copy pasting could mess that up sometimes. But anyways, yeah, you can put them 0 if they're 0, or leave it empty so it's more obvious what's what. And then let's go over to the capital now. So the capital is, I mean, I don't need a lot of dock capacity here. Maybe let's only go with a small fleet, kind of like Outpost Ramrod. It's inland. I don't expect it to be needing to garrison stuff. And then let's go ahead and specialize. Let's specialize Regal Katok into building large ships. Let's actually make that bigger. So I'm actually going to give this a 500 build capacity, and a 500 build per craft. Or maybe even, let's go down to, no, 500 is good. Because I've got battle cruisers that cost around 400, and I want to make sure I've got plenty. So now this thing is really good at building big ships because the build per craft is equal to the build capacity. So this can build a single craft up to 500,000 in a single turn. Whereas something like Tallinn, mostly I'm going to make escorts there. So I'm actually going to set a similarly high build capacity, but only let it build about 150 or 200 per turn. Let's go 200, maybe 600. So now we can build 3 200,000 cost ships in a single turn, which will kind of fit what the city's meant for better. And then Tallinn can hold a major task force. Let's go up to 1,000. And then the hold is our main base. Let's even go up to 2,500. I mean, I'm not going to need anything that big soon, so I might even drop it down to like 1,500. But I want to be able to hold a lot there. So you can see that all my fleets combined, or all my ports, can hold a maximum of 5.4 million materials and fleets, which is plenty. I could even decrease that if I wanted to. Maybe knock some off, but it's not too expensive even compared to just the building, so I'll keep it as is. The hold, let's go with like a middling value for everything. 800 build capacity and 300 build per craft. I may be speccing these too high and I can reduce that later. But the main thing, probably the most important ones are production and research. They'll affect a lot of what you're able to do. So for production, I mean, I probably want like 200 in total. So let's go with 120 at Regional K-Talk, 40 at the hold, 40 at Tallinn, and then maybe 10 at each of these minor cities. And then research, I don't need a lot. I'm not missing any text that I want, but it'll be helpful to get like some of the text for industry or construction, things like that. So I might go ahead and get up to maybe 40 tech per turn, maybe even higher. You can see that our development and our spare budget is 6,000 in total, and we are rapidly approaching 6,000, which is fine. I'll probably want to max that out on my industry stuff because that's how you often play strategy games. But let's go with 10 and then 10. So I'll get 50 tech per turn, 240 resources, which is fairly low. I'll probably decrease these. In fact, I definitely should. Let's take Ramrod down to a small fleet. Normally I shouldn't need anything big soon, maybe eventually. Tallinn can go 600. And then the hold can also go 500. So I've decreased my costs there. Same with build capacity. I'm not going to be building anything huge soon. So I may even leave Regional K-Talk off of being able to build for now, just to save money. And you can see my cost is down a little bit now. Yeah, 50 tech. Let's see. Probably the next things I'll want is construction 1, and then maybe these 2 intel techs. That's going to be a total of 35, and I'm making 50. Trying to figure out what else I might want. I'll probably want gas turbines too. So if I want to get gas turbines, construction 1, and these 2 intel on the next turn, I'll need 57 more points. So I'm actually going to spec for exactly that much, because this can be upgraded later. So I'll go ahead and add 3, 2, and 2. So I'll get 57 next turn. That'll get me all these things that I need. And then that should have us, oh, there we go, resources here. So I'm not going to bother to pull up the map, but I know that I have other Cydium in my territory, which is important for heavy airships that I'm planning to use. And I believe I've got a forest and gas. I'll go ahead and collect the gas because that's useful for just getting extra power. So it's not listed here, but on tech I can see that got me another 5,000 power. And then I'll leave all the other ones at 0 because I either don't have the resources or don't see a need to harvest it yet. So that'll get me settled here. I don't need to upgrade anything. I mean, I could upgrade gas if I wanted to get even more power. You'll see I'm up to 25 now. Or no, sorry, that should be a 1. You'll see I'm up to 15 now. But I don't need that much, so I'll stay at 1. And yeah, you can see my power from resources is here. And it'll also give me some material income, which is going to help support my bottom line. So I'm making 270 instead of just 240. And then I'm now up to a yeah, I'm pretty much exactly at 4,000 or 6,000 spent of my budget. So I've got 2,000 left, and I've yet to build any fleets. So this is basically perfect. Um, I might actually change this off camera to optimize it better, which you don't need to see because you're not the Atom Empire. But that'll get me started for now. And then actually, I'll go one step further and add a spy in the Atom Empire, which will give me some counterintelligence. It'll cost me 5,000 materials per turn, which I can live with. And then I'll need to add a -20 adjustment with the note of hiring a spy on counter intel within the Avim Empire. I don't need to specify that it's counter intel because it's implied given that it's in my own country, but it's just a useful note for myself and for the game master. And let's actually put the cost there, -20 for that, in case I were to add anything else that might reduce the adjustment there. Okay, you see we've used up all of our tech points, and we're pretty much down to exactly the 2,000 for our military budget. You don't need to follow it exactly, like you can go slightly over like I've done, but try not to push it. Tech is all taken care of. Again, all you need to do is select stuff in this chart. All of this over here is just information. You don't need to worry about that. It'll be funny once I get flamethrowers, because I do use those in one ship, but funny stuff to come, I suppose. Alrighty. Now to fill out our fleets. So, let me go ahead and put the Grand Fleet, which is going to be my biggest fleet. This is under Admiral, Fleet Admiral, Grand Admiral. Don't know which one I'll usually go with. Let's go with Fleet Admiral. I'm honestly not sure the best way to put it, but it's up to you to decide. So, Fleet Admiral Thorin, who is a great old guard kind of admiral experience from previous wars, and he's been in charge of the Navy for a long time, or at least in charge of the leading it side of things. There's obviously people who outrank him in like the logistics and like strategy planning areas. And this is going to be at the Hold, which is Regal or which is Berkholdshire. Actually, I don't know if I want Berkholdshire or the Hold here. The Hold is the contemporary name, but it's academic. I mean, whatever I want to display on the map doesn't really matter. So yeah, he's at the Hold. He is at base. The stance doesn't really matter. I'll usually keep it at patrol. And then let me actually go ahead and copy the coordinates of the Hold. Is that right there? And so I'm going to set this in the end coordinates. You're going to see stuff's going to go black and red here. And once I set the speed to, I think it'll be 52, you'll see that goes red too. Ignore this. This is going to happen on turn 0, just because this is set to 100. I've got it locked so you can't change it to make sure that the spreadsheet's not going to get messed up. But don't worry when these two things go black and red on turn 0, because once the turn passes in like 2 days, I'll actually go ahead and update the current X and Y to be this. And then in the future, you won't get that error again. Or if you do get the error, it means that you've actually gone too far. But in this case, it's just a function of what happens when we update it the very first time. And then I'll save the resupply for later once I figure out how many resources I have left. But let's go ahead and fill this out. So for ships, we've got His Majesty's Lion Ship Raider. I know it costs about 200,000. You should actually go in and check your vehicle costs in FD to make it more accurate than I'm going to here. But I know it's like 200 or 205, so whatever that ends up being. I'll correct it before I actually start with this Empire. It is an airship, and then the type actually needs to be air as well. And then the captain of this, I'm trying to remember what his name is. I think it was Captain Wolf. I don't remember his last name, but I think that was Wolf or maybe Wolfie, something like that. I'll fix this to actually follow the canon. There's only one of those. We've got HMLS Iron Sky, which is, I want to say, a 300,000. Now, note that currently my where is it at? It's going to be here. My max vehicle cost is 250. Strictly speaking, you shouldn't exceed this for turn 0 builds. Like, I'll let you do it for like your fleet flagship or 1 or 2 other craft, but for the most part, you should stay under your max vehicle cost for anything that you start with or build in the future. Um, and another thing to note is that your dock capacity. So if my biggest dock capacity was 400, then I also couldn't build anything over 400,000, just because that's how it works. So you need to have your build capacity and build per craft determine how long it takes. Your dock capacity determines your maximum size, as well as how many ships you can fit in that base at a time. So keep that in mind. And if that doesn't make sense, then just ask questions and I'll help clarify. But yeah, Iron Sky, all my airships go about 50 to 52. I'm just going to put random values so I can update these later. This is an airship as well. You're not going to be able to update the health. I'll, again, take care of this after the turn has been submitted. And then this is Thorin's flagship. I should have honestly swapped these, but it doesn't matter too much. I'll go ahead and do that. And yeah, I'm going to avoid Control Xing because it can mess up the way some of the rows are done, because that's just how sheets work. So I'm just going to do regular copies, and then, whoops, that was a Control X. Just to avoid risking it. If you think your spreadsheet's been messed up, just ask and I can check it out for you. I'll make this row wider. I'm not sure if you'll be able to do that or not, but I'll try and extend them as it makes sense so you can see your full names. And then there's one of these, and then let's just give it like 2 escorts, which will be, I'm trying to think what would be accurate to the times. Let's go with the Independence class, HMES. And then I'm actually going to add a note here that we've got the Independence class airships, Dronok and Whitley are the individual ship names. And then you see I've also got notes here for like spawn and altitudes. Please do this if it's important. If it's not, I'll just kind of estimate if you don't give me a note. But in general, if you've got like aircraft, please give me a spawn altitude. Otherwise, I'll put them at like 100 and they may bounce for a little while. This is an airship as well, and it only costs like 40,000, and it can also go like 53. So you see now that we've got a fleet which costs 580, which has taken up about 1/3 of our free materials. It has a maximum stores of 116, which if I resupply that much, we'll see that it's equal to exactly 20%, which is what you'd expect for airships. We'll go ahead and fill this all the way because the storage is so limited on airships that we want to make sure we've got the full endurance we can have. And then I'll go ahead and add the TDF, the Talinese Defense Force. You can do initialisms or acronyms or the full names, doesn't matter. If you do the full name and it's really long, it may look silly on the map, so keep that in mind. But yeah, try to fit it like in this length here, and it'll definitely be all right. Which is another air fleet. We've got the armored cruiser Fortitude, which is the flagship. We've got, what is it? The actual Independence, the namesake of the class, at least as far as the characters we're concerned about, View. And then, and I'm not going to fill all these out just because it'll take a while. I don't want the video to be super long. But if we want another fleet, oh, that's not right. I tried to paste it into the cell as raw text like that instead of into the cell. There we go. We've got another fleet available. I think I've said this before, but try not to just like copy a row like this to add more ships per fleet. It'll mess things up. If you need that, let me know. But in general, 6 should be enough when you're allowed to vary the number, I would expect. And then please include lore and stuff like that. It's really interesting and helpful. And you can also share that in like political announcements and stuff. And then you can also put like policies. So like you can put, we'll rescue survivors if practicable. And that'll be like a lore thing. So if you win a battle, then you'll be able to say, oh, we rescued some of your men, they're now prisoners. And then lore events can happen based on that. And it may affect how other nations view you too. Um, if you fail to collect survivors and a lot of people die, then that can really inflame tensions. Maybe if there's a very kind nation out there, they may be annoyed at you for that. Other things could be like, um, we'll try to capture downed craft. Downed or disabled craft. May or may not end up being a mechanic. It'll depend on how battles work, but anything interesting you want your fleet to be able to do. Or just lore stuff like this fleet was formed to be the main defense for the southern coast. That kind of thing. And then I'll go ahead and get some chords for these two. So the Talonese Defense Force is going to be based out of Tallinn. I'm going to change that up slightly. And let's add these values. Fortitude's like 200k, Independence says 40. Yeah, again, we'll ignore these ranges. Status is going to be at base. Let's see, where was I? This is at Tallinn. I'm going to modify the chords a little bit so it's not quite on the middle of the city. It might display a little bit weird if it is. So we'll go 2050 and then 2200. Ideally, you'd look at the map to see exactly where these put you, but that's what I'll go with for now. And if you've got ships especially, and your city is located on land, please try to put it at sea just outside of the city. It'll make the Python code run a lot better for developing the maps. If you're on land, it really doesn't like that because of how the randomization algorithm works. So please keep your vehicles on the appropriate land type, mostly an issue for ships because they can kind of end up in cities that are on land. But yeah, try to put it outside when you can. And I'll get errors that are informed of me when that happens so I can make sure it's not causing actual issues. But it just looks better if your fleet's outside. And yeah, even if you are outside of a base, but if you're close, you can still put your status as being at base. It just works well that way. Yeah, need to always have all these tabs filled out. The officers are not really needed. They're just like lore info. But you always need a number here, a speed, and a cost that you'll get from the depths. And then your type and your name. And then I'll update the health for you, of course. And then, yeah, resupply you'll want to update every turn. I'll generally probably delete this as I'm going through. So let's say I'm filling out the next turn. What I'll do is I will go to your turns tab. I'll lock these values in for whatever the current turn is. Then I'll go to your civilian. Everything looks good. Tech should be good. Military. Then I'll take the end and then copy it to here. And then I'll probably leave these as is, or maybe delete them. I'm not sure what I'll do. Probably leave them as is so that error doesn't show up. And then I'll probably delete your supply for you so you're not automatically resupplying again. And then actually before I do that, I'll update your current stores. And then delete that. So yeah, there you go. I think there's a bug there which I will fix. And then that should have us sorted. You need to make sure that your craft can meet all these requirements, that you have the tech and everything for them. So I need other side aim because I've got airships. And I need them to have less than 10k power, which all of them do. I think Iron Sky is just shy of 10k. Whereas the other ones are all 5,000. That should just about do it. If you need more information, there's tons of notes in here of what everything does. And yep, that should be all for this tutorial. Feel free to ask questions. I won't be available like all of tomorrow, but generally ask stuff and I'll try to respond fairly quickly. And then if your healths aren't all filled in, don't worry about that. I need to review your ships first, and it's fine if that happens like during turn 1. I'm hoping no one's going to manage to start a war during turn 1, or even to get their fleets engaged in combat. But if that does look like it'll happen, I'll make sure that everything gets expedited. So let me reset those back to where they should be, and that'll be it. Thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to seeing this world devolve into utter chaos. Alrighty, have a good one.